Welcome to the LTGuitarist Interviews podcast. My name is Liam. You might know me better as LTGuitarist. And over the years, I've interviewed some really interesting people from the world of music, from the world of YouTube, anything creative, really. And I wanted to revamp some of these older interviews because in the 7 years that have passed, I've become a better editor. Today I'm really excited to present my interview with Jay Foreman. You might know Jay as a musical comedian or as one half of Map Men. This interview was originally released in 2019 and we talk about all kinds of things. We talk about how Jay got started in music and how he transitioned into musical comedy. We talk about the differences between performing for children and performing for adults, and we talk about the various foibles of YouTube.
Hi, my name's Jay Foreman, and I do YouTube and I do music.
Regular music or funny music?
That question implies that music that is not funny is not regular, or vice versa.
For a comedian, it wouldn't be.
Well, when I started, I would have called it regular music. I was doing folk acoustic open mic nights, but I just, for a cry of attention, just because I wanted to do something different, I put funny lyrics in my songs. And then very, very, very slowly and gradually, I realized that what I was doing was actually closer to stand-up comedy than folk music. So that's why my songs are sort of somewhere in between comedy and regular, as you say.
So the funny music was a gateway into stand-up comedy. You weren't already dabbling in stand-up before you were doing music?
Yes, it was that way around. There's a lot of musical comedians who do same sort of thing as me, but they came through the opposite door, where they started doing stand-up, and then they realized, you know what this needs? It needs a ukulele. And so it became then more musical. Whereas in my case, it was the other way around, where I started being extremely regular, but then realized, actually, since I'm trying to make people laugh, I should probably do jokes between the songs. And I should probably actually stand up, and I should probably talk about myself a bit more. These are all things that even now come very unnaturally to me, but that's because of the door through which I came.
Interesting. We'll get into YouTube and performing in a little bit, but I want to start out very early on. Can you remember what your first musical experience was?
I mean, we're getting very deep here. This
Yes.
is like a therapy session. The
Yes,
earliest musical memory that I have is sat in front of my parents' record player listening to the Beatles. And when I was very young, the two albums that I'd listened to over and over again were Sgt. Pepper and Abbey Road. And I knew them off by heart. And I even knew which instrument came out of which speaker because I used to play with the balance and play with the stereo. I was obsessed with those two albums. And then I became obsessed with the Beatles in general. And to this day, it's my earliest music memory. And my second earliest is a bad knockoff of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, which I'm not as keen on anymore.
How do you knock off? It's already a pretty bad musical. How do you?
So the official version that most people have, the front cover is like a colourful coat hanger that says Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and it's got names like Jason Donovan or Philip Schofield. And the one that my parents had, I don't think it was an official one. I think it came with their new hi-fi. It has a compact disc player, so we're going to supply you with some compact discs. And one of them was this sort of, I don't know when it was from, but it wasn't the real Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. It was some bad singers. But that's the one that I knew best. That's the one that I grew up with. I'd love to find it. I just have to remember what it was called. I used to occasionally listen to the other one, the real one, if, I don't know, if it was playing at somebody else's house or they played it at school, and I wouldn't be familiar with it. I'd be like, this is being played with a bit too much aplomb. But that happened a lot when I was a kid because I had, I still have perfect pitch, so it meant that I was very picky about things not being quite right as they should be. And sometimes people would sing a song and I'd say, no, that's not how it goes. Why not? It's in the wrong key. And I learned eventually to stop doing that.
How did you work out you had perfect pitch?
I think my parents worked it out because every time I sang something, they'd play it on the compact disc player and like, how did you know that was the right key? Or I would complain, that's in the wrong key, and they'd say, how do you know? And I thought, well, doesn't everybody know? It either sounds correct or it doesn't. I had to eventually learn that most people, like literally 999 out of 1,000 people, don't need to hear exactly the key it's in, and they remember it. Weird thing about, because I've got a perfect pitch, there's actually some things that I find harder than most musicians. So for example, if you tell me to sing or play a familiar song in an unfamiliar key, I have to work harder to transpose it because in my mind, that's a different song.
Yes, that's interesting. I've got friends who have perfect pitch, but they've all done it through, they've all intentionally gone out of the way and really practiced to have perfect pitch, so it's a learned skill.
I guess you don't actually need music lessons to have perfect pitch. No. You need music lessons to realise what it is that you have. So, for example, someone that's never had a music lesson in their life could always sing something in the original key. But then it takes music lessons to realise that key must be C, and so on.
So did you have music lessons at any point?
Yeah, I had guitar lessons when I was about 7. Actually, the first education I had on the guitar was my mum taught me to play because she was a children's party entertainer. And she taught me like the first 3 or 4 chords, and then I got a proper guitar teacher.
Cool.
Then I got another proper guitar teacher, and now I can still play.
It's a really good guitar teacher.
Then I became a guitar teacher.
Wow.
I've passed it on.
What got you into the idea of performing? So we talked about it being music first that you wanted to perform.
I used to sometimes go to these summer camps and I'd be the guy with the guitar.
You were that guy.
I was that guy.
The archetype.
For a cry of attention, really.
Yeah.
And then later when I was a student, I used to take my guitar to open mic nights.
Also that guy.
My uni, York Uni, there was lots of different college bars and they all had plenty of opportunities to play in front of people. And I don't know what drove me to do it. I just thought, well, I can, so I'm going to give it a go. Why not?
Was it just sort of the done thing if you own a guitar and you know some songs, the logical progression?
Loads of my friends at uni that had guitars, like they'd play their songs or they'd play covers and, it would just be a fun thing to do. Why not?
Yeah.
And then it never, ever occurred to me that that should be something I should, pursue as a proper hobby with a capital H, or let alone a job. That was never the idea, and it still isn't. I just haven't found a proper job yet.
Yeah, let me know when you get one. I think we could all do with a proper job.
I think, hopefully one of these days I'm going to eventually I'll settle down and I'll become a chartered quantity surveyor or a systems analyst.
I realise we've joked about getting a real job, but obviously this must be profitable in some way. Was there a point where you realised that you could perform as a career?
Well, I always did jobs on the side.
Yeah.
So for the longest time, I was a tour guide driving people around London in old Mini Coopers. It was a great job. But then there came a time when I didn't have time for all of the various jobs I was juggling.
Yes.
I was doing YouTube, I was doing gigs, and I was being a tour guide. And there wasn't time for all 3. And I looked at my timetable and my calendar and my finances. And one day, completely by surprise, I stopped doing the day job and I had to fill in on forms. I had to be a musician or comedian. And I'm still not used to it. I still struggle to tell people that is my actual job. That's what's paying my mortgage. I am a musician, because musicians aren't real people.
No.
They're not serious people. I can't be one of them. So I don't think, even if I'm 75 and I'm still, making my money as a comedian or YouTuber, I won't be able to admit it to myself. I certainly won't be able to admit it to my family. But most people I know that are performers, they juggle their fun job with a serious job.
Yeah.
That's a very, very normal thing, especially now in this economy.
Do you have a songwriting process?
Well, every song's a bit different, but in general, if people ask me, do you do the music first and the lyrics later, or the lyrics first and add music, which way round is it? And I always tell people, you have to do both at the same time, because if you have all your lyrics finished, and you then try and put a tune around it, the tune is going to be compromised and weird.
Yeah.
And the only way that you're going to end up with something you're happy with, the way it works for me anyway, is if you write them both at the same time, and don't settle on one until you're happy with both. My process, I guess, is think of the idea first. First of all, I've got to figure out what's this going to be about, what's going to make me laugh about it. And again, because I'm a musical comedian, there has to be something funny about the song. It's been a very long time since I wrote a serious song.
Normal music.
So once I've got that idea, I'll then probably have in my head like 1 or 2 rhyming couplets that I'm hell-bent on, like things I know are going to be in the song. And this is the fun stage. This is when I'm coming up with things that make me laugh, things that I know are going to be a good idea, and stuff that really only appeals to me. But then comes stage 2, where I have to make it make sense and make it appeal to other people, and that's when all the scaffolding goes in, and that's when it becomes all about making sure that it's well structured and coming up with rhymes and reorganizing it so that the weakest rhymes come in the second line, so that a payoff comes on the 4th line, and so on, all this technical stuff, until finally there's something I'm happy with. But like I said, it's different for every song. There was one particular song I did. I have a song from a long time ago called Martin Was a Monkey, and that started out life as a poem. And then after I'd finished the poem, I thought, actually, I would like more people to hear this. And the only way I can get more people to hear it is if I put it in my live act and make it a song. So that's why it's got such an unusually rigid syllable structure.
Interesting. You perform for children as well?
These days, yes,
These days.
mostly.
How did that come about?
That was a complete accident. So
Good.
I was doing for many years songs for grown-ups. And what happened was there was one year when my show at the Edinburgh Fringe happened to be in a venue that usually is used for kid shows. It was in the Pleasance Igloo, or the Pleasance, I can't actually remember what the official name of the room is, but everyone called it an igloo. The Pligloo. Everyone called it the igloo because it looked like an igloo.
That makes sense.
Until 6 p.m, all the shows in there were for children.
Okay.
My show was at 8 p.m, so it wasn't a kid show, it just happened to use that venue. And because my songs are often written from the point of view of a child, because I find that quite funny, or they're sort of quite innocent sounding, or just the fact that it's musical comedy at all, I think for those reasons, people thought it looked like a children's show.
Right, okay.
And then I had a few parents come to me that year and they said, you know what, your show, we like your show, but have you ever considered taking all the swearing out? Because if you did, you would then have a great kid show on your hands. And enough people said it, including my agent. And then I thought, actually, maybe that's not a bad idea. So I did 1 or 2 shows for a company that I now do lots of gigs for called Comedy Club for Kids. And the premise is they get comedians to basically take the swearing out of their routine and perform to children. And it means that kids get a chance to see comedians that normally perform to grown-ups. And I did that show a few times and really enjoyed it. And I thought, well, I'm going to attempt a full hour of family-friendly stuff. So I then went back to the Fringe with a very similar show to the one before, but some of the songs had been swapped out. I wrote, with some help from some friends of mine, 1 or 2 extra songs that were deliberately for children. And then that show became the best-selling show I'd done at the Fringe, and I sort of was compelled by how well that show had gone to keep doing it. And I've now, it's been many years since that show, but I now mostly when I'm doing my solo shows, I mostly do it for children. So I've become, who would have thought, I followed in my mum's footsteps and become a children's party entertainer.
Is it literally as simple as just taking the swearing out?
Well, sometimes it is as simple as taking the swearing out, but I think the only reason I found it that easy is because my material was already quite child-friendly. I tell people, I often joke that, I've got some adult stuff too, but that's filth. There isn't actually a lot of filth. Most of the stuff I write, I think it's it's funnier to me to write stuff that the whole family can enjoy.
Third verse, same as the first and the second. Bim, 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 bim. Fourth verse, similar to the first, second, and third. Bim, 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 bom, bim, 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 bom, bim, 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 bom. Fifth verse, completely different from the first, second, third, and fourth.
The thing that I find hard, if you're writing something for kids, is not to make sure you're not including any swearing. It's to make sure that you're not relying on references to things that the kids have no hope of understanding. Because kids, they're not stupid, they just have nowhere near as much world experience as grown-ups.
They just don't care about the minor strikes.
Exactly, and if I wanted to write a song that had a reference to, let's say, Neil Kinnock.
Right.
See, to me, that's quite a funny reference, because it's why are you talking about someone who's not been involved in politics for 30, 40 years? You can't do that with kids. You can't fall back on that's something no one's thought about for a long time. You also can't do references to TV shows and movies because they haven't seen most of them. And if you do want to do references that kids understand, it has to be the programs that they like. And I don't like a lot of kids' TV now. So I have to rely on, if I'm referencing things, it has to be things they know about, like food or the weather or animals.
How do you find younger people as an audience? Are they more appreciative? Do they heckle less?
When a kid's audience appreciates what I'm doing, it's a really fantastic feeling, because kids, they don't pretend to like it.
Okay.
When you're doing a gig for grown-ups, they know it's a comedy show and they have to behave themselves, they have to clap, and worse still, they have to laugh when something has the cadence of a joke. But kids don't do that. So when they laugh, they mean it, and that's great. However, on the other hand, kids are so unpredictable. And sometimes they can be really annoying. Sometimes what I'm doing on stage is not so much entertaining them as babysitting. And I've learned, if you show the slightest sign of weakness, if you sort of tell one kid to shut up, no matter how funny it is to suddenly go, shut up, the other kids will cotton on and they'll start making noise. And then it doesn't matter if you're the best comedian in the world, you've lost them. There's really not a lot you can do once the audience have decided that they're against you. It's very similar to drunken hecklers on a Friday night. So, you actually learn a lot about how to treat drunken audience members from how to treat kids. Because again, you can't fall back on the shut up because it won't work.
Yeah. It's interesting. We were talking about YouTube earlier, and a lot of your YouTube stuff feels, I really hate the word edutainment, but it feels educational and entertaining, but in a very family-friendly way.
The fact that there's a word for that implies that the two are not supposed to go together.
Well, quite.
It's either entertaining or you learn something. It can't possibly do both. So yeah, that irritates me too.
Good, I'm glad. How did you come to make content for YouTube?
The first video that I made for YouTube was an episode of Unfinished London. And we made it because me and my friend Paul, who we still make it together, we were looking for work in proper telly.
Right.
He wanted to do stuff behind the camera. He wanted to be either a camera operator or director, and I wanted to write and possibly present. We both just wanted to be involved in that world, and so we decided to hire some equipment from, I can't remember how we did it, but we got some equipment from someone, and we made this film and put it on this video sharing website, youtube.com. And the reason that it was in the style that it is, where it's full of jokes, is because I thought that was the best way to tell the story.
Yeah.
Where the jokes don't get in the way of the thing that you're educating about. The jokes help you remember it. The jokes help you learn what it's about.
Yeah.
And to our delight, people enjoyed it and they asked us to make more. And so we are now, 10 years later, still making more.
If you are enjoying this interview, you might want to visit the LTGuitarist Ko-fi page. Ko-fi, spelt Ko-fi, is a platform where people like you can buy a coffee for their favourite internet creators. There's also a store where you can download basically every piece of music I've ever written, including a bunch of stuff that isn't available anywhere else. There's also a monthly supporter option where if you want to send me £1 every month, you can unlock a bunch of sample packs, which again aren't available anywhere else. It's super straightforward. You can send payments through PayPal, and honestly, times are hard at the moment, so I really appreciate any donations that come my way, and it all goes towards making stuff like this podcast. Visit kofi.com/LTGuitarist. That's ko-fi.com/LTGuitarist to support the LT Guitarist Interviews podcast. Thank you very much. So you must have been on YouTube quite early then, because it's sort of, it feels like such an established thing, but I guess, as you said, this video sharing website, that is exactly what it was 10 years ago. It's just, this is somewhere you can put videos.
I mean, if I tell people that my first video was from 2009, you know, they might react and say, well, that means you've been a YouTuber for 10 years. And I'll tell them that's not how it works, because when we uploaded the video in those days, like I say, youtube.com, it was just this website where you'd share your video, but there was no such thing as doing YouTube for a career. It was that was a ridiculous notion. And it only occurred to me that I was doing it as a career, like about less than a year ago, really.
Do you have a favourite video that you've uploaded to YouTube?
My favourite video series that I've done, because I've done lots of series, there was ones about politics, there was ones about maps with Mark Cooper-Jones. My favourite is Unfinished London, because that was the first one that we did, and that's our baby, and I think that's something that we were always going to make, because it combines all of my interests, and because it's history, which I've now become very interested in and geeky about, and it's, you know, we've managed to put our sense of humour in it, so I'm very pleased with those ones. It's either that, or one time I uploaded a video that was only about 30 seconds long that proved that the intro to Paul McCartney's song New was very similar to the theme music from Button Moon. I was very happy with that video, but only about 1,000 people watched it.
Yeah, it's always the stuff that you're proud of that people tend not to care about.
Well, this is interesting, because I mean, those videos, like the ones I was just talking about, Unfinished London, Map Men, and the ones about politics, you know, they take a lot of time and a lot of hard work and a lot of money goes into those. And yet the video on my channel that's had the most views is a live clip of me doing my syllables trick in a gig. And that must have taken me about 10 minutes to edit together and put online, and that's had 7-point-something million views. And then, you know, the other ones that I've spent months working on have got nowhere near as many. And what that just goes to show is that you cannot control these things, that, you know, the algorithm will decide for you.
A lot of people who talk about creating content for YouTube tend to say if you can document things that you're doing already rather than making stuff explicitly and exclusively for YouTube, you tend to get a better reaction. So maybe that's the case in this. It's the thing that you had already done. You'd already done the performance.
That's true, but then on the other side of the argument, you don't want too much stuff on YouTube, which is just people waking up and sitting on the end of their bed and saying, okay, so today I'm going to talk about myself. You do have to put the work in and make sure that there is a reason why you're uploading.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of people on YouTube that they don't have the thing in their brain that asks, why do people care? This is something that, YouTube has changed so much in the last 10 years. It used to be the place you go to find weird stuff that used to be on TV years ago. And, you'd never watch a video that was more than 3 minutes long. Yeah. And now people spend more time watching YouTube than TV. Yeah. And it's a lot of people, you can very, very cheaply get cameras that are fantastic quality nowadays. Yeah. But it's people just talking about themselves. Yeah. And it's people they spend most of the videos saying like, share, and subscribe. Or today I'm going to do something a bit different. Like, no one cares. Well, I don't care, but apparently young whippersnappers do now. Yeah,
I'm going to directly address the audience. YouTube used to be like You've Been Framed, but without an editor.
Yes, that's a great analogy.
There wasn't anyone in the back room going, this is just a bit lame to go on telly.
That was one of the appeals of YouTube in the early days, was you'd find stuff that was a bit too weird for TV. Do you remember the very early days of the internet when it was all about Flash animations? And Flash is, it's almost completely disappeared now. Yeah. But there used to be a website that I loved called rathergood.com. I revisited rathergood.com and all the other things that we used to spread and share around. When I was 15, we used to, can you believe it, we used to send emails to each other and say, have you seen this thing I found on the internet? And you know what? They weren't very good. We accepted it then because that was all there was. It was, the internet was for weird things like Hamster Dance, or The Dancing Baby, or Spoon Guard. And we used to think that was so funny. But nowadays, we are absolutely bombarded with about something that is 5 times better than that every minute of the day on your Twitter feed. Yeah. Whereas in the olden days, you used to, something that was just about good enough to make you laugh that much would come along every few months or so. The internet is so different now. It's become a scary, horrible place.
So you mentioned a few questions ago that it was only sort of a year ago that you would consider yourself a YouTuber, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Was there a specific video you uploaded or a specific content or interaction that made you go, oh, okay, no, this is something that I am actually doing?
No, it's very slow and gradual. When we started putting stuff on YouTube, it was, a show reel. And the idea was to try and show it to TV companies and say, could you please give me a job? Look, I've done this for a hobby. Yeah. And then very, very slowly, the views were going up, and I'm now doing, each video gets sponsored. But it's hard to say when was the precise moment, which was the precise video when it stopped being a hobby and started being a job. It's, I don't think there was one moment. I think it's slowly crept up on me. Yeah. It's still slowly creeping up on me.
Right, so this is my signature end question.
Yes.
And it relies on your own personal experience, so your answer is going to be different to anyone else's answer.
About this one now, because if this is the last question, my answer's got to be a good one.
Well, hopefully.
If it's not, this will be a big old anticlimax.
I mean, it'll be on me for booking you, really.
Uh-oh.
What is one piece of advice that you would give to someone who wants to do what you do?
That's extremely hard to answer, and I'll tell you why. Because no one likes to acknowledge just how big a role luck plays. In becoming a YouTuber. I'll have a lot of people saying to me, well, you've got a few subscribers now. Can you tell me what I should do to get to the same position that you're in? And my answer is actually no, because the only advice I can give you is specifically what worked for me, which is just to keep on doing it over and over and over again until eventually, when you don't get a proper job as a chartered quantity surveyor or systems analyst, you find you have enough subscribers. You basically, if your stuff is good and if you're doing something that nobody else is doing, if you keep at it, you might have some success. But YouTube is full of thousands and thousands of people who are extremely talented and what they're making is great, but only 5 people have seen each of their videos because they just...
Jay's talking about me.
Yeah. Well, if someone says to me, I want to start a YouTube channel from scratch, how do I get immediately to 500,000 subscribers? You can't. Yeah. I don't know. It's the only reason I've managed it is because I've been doing it for a very long time, and I got my foot in the door before YouTube became what it is now. Yeah. And I was unbelievably lucky. I mean, for example, the video of the syllables trick that went viral and has got 7 million views, that was entirely by accident. The way that happened was I uploaded that video ages ago. It got about 30,000 views. I was very happy with that. And then one day it disappeared from YouTube. Someone tweeted me and said, what happened to your syllables video? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Let's have a look. Oh, it's gone. And I sent an email to YouTube saying, my video's gone. They said, you deleted it. And I said, no, I didn't. And they said, yes, you did. And I said, no, I didn't. And they said, yes, you did. And so on, until eventually they said, well, look, we're sorry, but it's gone. So we recommend you upload it again. And I was furious. But then I found it. It was buried on a hard drive somewhere. I made some slight changes. I made it a bit shorter, gave it a better thumbnail, uploaded it again. And then within a month it had got up to 1 million. I'd never had anything like a million views for a thing before.
Interesting.
And the next time I went into the YouTube space in King's Cross, I said to the people that worked there, like, is that a favor that you did for me to say sorry for deleting it? And they said, no, absolutely not. We don't do that. We can't do that.
Yeah.
And it turns out it was because the first video got deleted and I uploaded it again, and I don't know what happened, but I seemed to make the algorithm happy that video went viral. And then that got my other videos views, and then it all started, once I sort of got some momentum going, I started getting more views and subscribers.
Interesting.
But had that not happened, I wouldn't be here today. I'd be sat at a desk being a chartered quantity surveyor, and I'd be happy. I think it's a silly thing to do to try and work out what the algorithm wants, because the people that work at YouTube, even they don't know. It's famously sort of secretive black box technology. So people that have success on YouTube, they will sort of, it's like that game with you do something and then the pellet gives out food and you do it again. We're doing that to try and please the algorithm with a capital A, to make sure that
algorithm.
we keep, that, to make sure that we keep on getting the views that we, now need for the money. But we don't know, I don't know what the formula is. I just know that I've been unbelievably lucky, and I just better keep on doing it and not change a thing. Have you seen that episode of Malcolm in the Middle where his dad becomes really good at bowling temporarily?
Yes.
It's like that.
Yeah.
So if you could cut to a clip where you see, what's his face from Breaking Bad, and he's like doing these little rituals with the bowling ball each time to try and, it's basically that.
It's interesting you bring up the luck thing. This is what I tell people if I get similar questions, but I sort of believe that you can kind of make your own luck by sort of doing a variety of things, or kind of trying to work out what it is you've lucked out on before, and then not necessarily recreating that, but understanding why it happened. Do you believe
you obviously still need to know what you're doing, and you need to work
Sure.
hard and put the hours in, but you also need the luck.
Sure.
It's not fair to say that if you're just lucky, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But it's also, sadly, not fair to say that if you just work hard and your stuff is good, you'll also be fine. You have to have both.
Jay Foreman, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for your time.